Good afternoon. How you guys doing? Wanted to get on and do some acrylic fundamental work. Been working on gels quite a bit over the last week, so I'm going to bounce right back to acrylic and really focus on all of the aspects from preparation all the way through till finishing. I think this is really going to help all of you guys, especially for those of you guys that are learning. This is really going to address a lot of the key issues when it helps to your success in building nails. So, one of the things I really want to be able to focus on is, first of all, if I'm going to dispense liquid inside my dish, one of the things you can do is you could hold the bottle up to the ferrule, which is the metal point. You're going to notice that you're going to be able to dispense liquid inside your dish without spilling down the side of the bottle. I could leave my brush inside my dish, and then that way, right, it acts kind of like a brush cleaner. What we have to be able to do is have enough liquid. As you can see right here, I only have about half of it filled, just so the bristles lay inside. It gives me enough room to be able to basically press out monomer from one side of the brush. That way I'm going to be able to pick up from this side. And that way, when you're actually bouncing into the surface, you're going to be able to pick up a nice bead on one side of the brush, right? One side, not all over. All right, so that's huge. We'll go ahead and basically keep that there. Again, if you're working with monomer, again, use the bottle to hold against the ferrule. That way you're going to be able to dispense a nice amount inside. All right, so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go through some key preparation for those of you guys that are actually working with our nail trainer. If you buy the fingertips separate, they come long like this. Then what you'll be able to do is cut away the plastic, and what that's going to do is leave you with some edges that you'll be able to file smooth. You'll be able to hear 3 clicks when you're going into the hand, right? So 1, 2, right, that's 2 big ones, right? That's good enough where you're going to be able to get it nice and flush to the surface of the rubber. And then what I'll do is I'll usually clip away a majority of the plastic on the front end, which is going to leave me just enough room to just kind of file those harsh edges away. That just leaves me with a nice practice surface to work on. I'm going to be working with my electric file and this arbor band. I'm going to be working at a very low speed. I'm going to be working at, as you can see, 3,000 RPMs, and that is just gentle enough for me to run my electric file. You can see that the bit is very concentric, right? It's not wobbling at all. It's very gentle. It's gentle enough that I could actually tickle the underside of my wrist, which is very tender, and that's the kind of pressure you're going to be using when you are working around the surface of whether it's the practice hand or even the natural nail. And what I like to do is use that edge just to go around, and then what I could do is I could lightly start to feather the shine away from corner to corner. Boom. As you can see how effective that is, right? I'm using a feathering motion to tickle away the shine. I'm not digging or going side to side. And you'll notice that when I'm holding the hand, I'm in this position, an overgrip position, right? This prevents the customer. If you're holding the hand like this, the customer is always wanting to look at what you're doing. If you're coming over with the overgrip position, I like to call it the G.I. Joe Kung Fu grip, right? This is puts them in a position where they can't see, and you have full control while you're doing your electric filing, okay? Once you are done removing shine from the surface, we're going to use swipe. And then what we can do is use this to clean the surface of the nail. And then it's going to dry chalky. This is going to dehydrate the surface of the natural nail. You can already see the plastic turning like white. And this is also going to lead to you balancing that pH level, which is going to provide you the perfect surface for you to protein bond. Okay, so protein bond once, all 10 nails, and then what you're going to do is you're going to come through and you're going to apply protein bond a second time, right? 2 coats. So what we want to be able to do when we're sculpting acrylic is we have to be able to apply a form well to the surface of the nail. So depending on the shape of the natural nail, is also going to determine whether or not you have to cut. So, if I was working with a really square free edge, then what I would have to do, I don't have any scissors here, which is fine. I can just use these nippers, but I would clip off. It's going to take forever to do, but I can just do a little bit of surgery here. Boom. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm kind of creating a little bit of a square edge, and then that's going to lead me to actually place that right there. So this is going to fit somebody who has a tip that is very square. This is also going to fit somebody who maybe bites their nails back severely, right? So if the natural nail, if there was a lot of skin here, then this part of the form is going to lay right on that skin, which is going to allow you to build a tip out, right? If you had to deal with somebody who had, say, long nails and they had, say, extended hyponychium that was growing out, well, what you would have to do is you'd have to take your scissors or your nippers, and you would have to kind of gently clip away a nice little V, right, boom, right at the very, very edge. So that's going to fit somebody who maybe has skin that grows all the way out to the edge. You can refer to some of the videos. I have a lot of videos on young nails that show how to fit forms, but if we're working with something like this is just going to fit really, really well. And we don't have to really do anything to the form. All I have to do is place the tip under, the actual round sticker, right? And we're going to place that underneath for support. It's going to add stability to the form. This is going to allow me to pinch. I'm going to pinch the whole free edge, right? This is going to act like a handle, right? So you could this can act like your handle, or this right here can act as your handles. For those of you guys that don't struggle and obviously have really good support skills or balancing skills with your hand, what you could do is you could hold the hand. You're going to hold the form right here. You're going to just get it underneath, and you're going to use your hand to lift it so that it's nice and even. You don't need to seal that edge, right? So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to make sure that the form is completely straight on that underneath the free edge, touching the very, very front of the nail. Okay, so once we have the form on, what we're going to do is we're going to get our powder. And since I am obviously going to be building length, I want to be able to build a free edge. And so we're going to go with active length. I totally recommend all those individuals out there who are working with acrylic for the first time, don't try to go long. Get your brush, get your bead, right? Maybe bounce a few times in the powder, get yourself a nice pearl. And then what I want you to do is I want you to dab off all that excess on the back side of your brush. That way when you lay it on the form in front of the natural nail, it sits, it doesn't run. Then you're going to be using this part of your brush, the body of the brush, to literally walk it up to the side. Notice, you see all that bulk? I'm going to get it even with the growth channel. And then use the body of the brush just to walk it up from the top of the free edge up to the corner. And then obviously it's still quite uneven, but that's where you're going to be using the body of the brush, pretty much the center of the brush, to kind of get it nice and even. I can pull it to kind of stretch it. I could use the side of the brush, excuse me, to get this nice and even from side to side. And what I'm really focusing on is building something thin and even, right? So it's quite tapered, but you can see the growth. Here are the growth channels of the nail. I'm trying to keep the sides of my free edge tapered and within that area. And I'm using, again, the very sides of the brush, right, to just kind of make it as square as I can if you decide to make it square. A lot of the nails I build are an almond shape, but for those of you guys that are in to the square shape, that's perfect. But you'll also notice from the side profile how thin everything is. It's like I glued a tip onto the surface of the nail. So when we are actually doing the body, I'm going to be breaking it down into multiple parts. First, I'm going to be starting from the cuticle area, which is really important. When I pick this up, you can see the angle that I'm going to be applying at is like this. I'm not applying it, I'm never applying it flat like this. If I end up applying it flat like this, everything runs into this area here. We don't want that. If we're holding the finger in this position, then when I go ahead to set this down, you can see the angle of my brush. It's almost like 45 degrees. Well, the finger's sitting at 45. I can keep my brush straight. The very tip of the brush acts as a barrier between the cuticle area and the natural nail. So what I'm doing is I'm walking around when the acrylic is in a wet state. So you'll notice, right? I'll get the liquid in the back so you can see me submerge my brush. I'm going to submerge my brush. I'm going to get this quite wet. I'm going to bounce, 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 bounce. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then around 5, I'm going to release. The tip of my brush is immediately going to start working around the perimeter while the bead starts to run down. As soon as it passes, I start pulling from the corners and the front of the bead. Like, so what I'm talking about is here. I start pulling from the corners, the front of the bead and the corners. I'm not pulling from the back, okay? That way, a natural arch, look at this, a natural arch sets in. And then you'll notice the tip of the brush as I start pulling down from there. So what ends up happening when I hold it at this angle, as the bead runs down, my focus is to take the tip of the brush and start pulling from the front corner, from the front of the bead and this corner as well. Everything will shape by itself. And what will end up happening is the acrylic will self-level this way, this way, this way, naturally giving you really, really flush sidewalls that are going to be very, very easy to file. This area in front, man, that's simple. What you're going to do is you're going to take another bead, you're going to bounce, bounce, bounce. At this point, if I wanted to take off the excess liquid, I could, because you'll notice if I set my brush backwards and then all I do is kind of fill up into that space, all I would have to do is use the body of the brush just to, like, I'm walking it from side to side. I'm keeping a majority of the product right in place. You can see how everything fills out. I'm just filling the space and then using the side of the brush just to kind of keep it in check. And then again, it doesn't matter if it's slightly off, you're going to be able to file. Look at that, right? Everything is in shape. Notice that my extension is perfectly straight. Look at my upper arch. It's perfectly in shape. Dude, the free edge is thick enough. Like this, if you're looking at this from the very, very front of the nail, that is enough product where I have room to file it into perfection. Don't worry about whether it's perfect. It doesn't matter if it's slightly off. That's going to file even. So once you're in this position, if you were looking at the side profile and it was way too flat here, then I would say, okay, you know, if you built it out too thin, then you could take a small bead, you could set it down in the area you want. I could use the tip of my brush just to kind of tap around the edges, pull around the edges, kind of leaving the thickness in the area I want. Give it a couple seconds, and then use the body of the brush just to kind of walk it from side to side, just to kind of start self-leveling this, and then pulling from the front. I don't pull from the whole surface. I want to leave the thickness where it is so that I have room to file. A lot of nail technicians make the mistake of actually setting it down and then just start brushing, and then what ends up happening is they flatten it out and it's all gone, okay? So these are the basics. This is what's going to get you to a point where you're going to be able to sculpt this in the shape. This is set. Like if I was to take something straight like a hand file, right, you could see, right, I have room to file. Look at how straight my edges are right there. That's not going to take a lot for me. Look how straight my edges are. My file is literally touching the whole entire side. Right? I haven't done anything. I'm just showing you that, right, from my growth channels all the way up, I have created a perfect structure where everything is going to file very, very straight, and I haven't even started doing that yet. This is what you want to be able to do to set yourself up so that when you do get to finishing, you're not going to have to spend that much time, right? The process of doing nails, to eliminate any type of lifting, there's 3 variables. The variables are preparation, application, and finishing. It's a combination between all 3, and all 3 have to be done well. Your preparation has to be thorough. The electric file, it's not a drill. We don't use drills. The electric file is designed to be thorough. If you understand how to use your e-file, right, you're going to create the proper texture for any enhancement, whether it's hard gel or acrylic, to bond really well to that surface. So if your prep is good, dude, boom. Application. With acrylic, you need, especially with the body, it needs to be medium to wet. Not super wet where it's running everywhere, but it needs to be medium wet so that it's leveling. It has to level. You can't force the level. That way it gives an opportunity for the acrylic to bond into the natural nail like a gel, okay? You shouldn't have to force it. You should be able to touch around the perimeter. Let it self-level, right? That's huge, just like I showed you, right? That application, especially around the perimeter of the nail, is going to determine whether you're going to have lifting around your edges or not. If you're able to succeed, apply it successfully around the perimeter of the nail. It doesn't matter what you add on top of the acrylic. You could add dry, you could add whatever you want. Acrylic is going to bond extremely well to acrylic. It's the natural nail that counts. So once you have that structured, once you have that down, then it gets to finishing, right? If you apply it well and you don't need to finish, I'm saying you're like jackhammer around, or dude, spend friggin' 30 minutes filing around the edges. Dude, if you're spending 30 minutes hand filing, 40 minutes hand filing, you're disrupting the bond. Shouldn't be that long. You should be able to swoop around the cuticle area and be able to blend it flush to the natural nail, without spending that much time. It's all technique focused. It's all technique based. This is what's going to determine whether you're going to have lifting or not. So if someone's like, yo, is there lifting? You know, I would beg to differ. I would say, I think it's a combination of many, many different things. If you're having lifting off the back, it could be your application. You could have outstanding preparation, and if you don't know how to apply and finish, you're going to have issues as well. So the whole purpose of this is to be able to make you guys aware that once you get all 3 of those things down, you're setting yourself up for a lot of success, especially when it comes to acrylic. All right, hit me up if you guys have any questions. I'm always here to help. Glad I was able to get in late. Just wanted to make sure that you got your dose of nail school. And again, I appreciate you guys. Love you much. Talk to you soon. Peace.